Hello and welcome to Beach Soccer Talks number 3, and good afternoon to everybody who's tuning in from around the world. I hope everybody is safe and well at home and looking forward to the next hour. This week's talks is going to be very special. It's going to be hosted by myself, Perry Northeast, and I've got a really special guest and panel list that will be contributing and helping us with the talk this evening and talking us through some of the goals in the Women's Euro 2019 Beach Soccer Cup. So with my guests this evening that I'd like to introduce, first of all, we have Carmen Fresnel, who is a player with the Spanish national team. We also have Sarah Kempson, who is a national team player and the captain of the England beach soccer team.
Hello.
And we have with us Franziska Steinemann, who is the head coach of the Swiss beach soccer team. And she's also with Vanessa Mayer, the current Switzerland captain. And Ivan Kanaev and Ilya Leonov, who are the head coach and the assistant coach for the Russian national team.
Hi to everyone.
Very special panel this evening for many reasons, with people who have great experience in the women's game. And I think what makes the panel even more special this evening is that every single person in this phone call has either played or coached at least one Women's Euro Cup final. So some of the experiences that can be shared this evening will be valued, and we can go into some more depth and some more detail around some of the ways that some of the nations play. So hopefully by the end of this hour, we're going to have some very useful information to take away and to hopefully develop us all in the future. So we'll now move on to some of the statistics in terms of the Women's European Cup from the 2019 element. So as you can see, these are some of the standout statistics that occurred during the competition. It's important to say, first of all, that we analysed 65 of the 74 goals. So there was one game that was Switzerland versus Czech Republic that we were unfortunate in not being able to analyse. But as you can see here, there's some fantastic statistics. And what we're going to do throughout the presentation is bring some of these statistics to life, ask the panel questions, showcase some videos, and hopefully evidence some great developments within the women's game. As you can see here, so a statistic that shouts out to me is that there were 13 goals in which 2 passes were made. So this is contributing towards 31% of the goals. I don't know if Sarah, do you want to maybe suggest about the statistic? Any interesting things?
Yeah, for me, you were talking about the 2 goals, 2 passes, is that correct?
Yeah.
So for me, I think there's been an increase in the technical ability of players internationally, and ability to maintain the ball under pressure has improved. So playing out from the back a little bit more, not as direct as it used to be, kind of the long throw. So I think that's been the big change technically and both tactically in maintaining possession before having goal scoring chances.
Great. And Ivan, just looking at the goalkeeper goals as well, do you think that goalkeepers now have more importance or have become technically better in the competition recently?
Yeah, of course. And I think that in the future, we have 2 new trends for these goals. For me, the one trend is increasing the number of the goals by the goalkeepers, by the overhead kicks. I think that its number of these goals is increasing, and maybe we see the increase of the goals after combinations with a large number of passes. So the players will become more tactically trained, and I think that they will no longer be afraid to look for new variants, new options to improve their attack. So I think that new options in the attack and new passes, more passes and goal after big variants for passes in the future, I think.
Okay, great, thank you. And I know that we'll be going to the panel to, again, talk a bit more detail and look at some of these statistics and try to make sense and make sure that these aren't just numbers, but we're trying to make sense of the situations that occur in the game. So I think before we talk about what's happened at the Women's Euro 2019, it's important to try and understand the history of the women's game and how quickly the women's game has developed as well. So we're going to look slightly into the past and some of the nations that have done well in recent years. So we'll start with Switzerland, and obviously the Swiss women's team, it's a team that I have much respect and much admiration for. It was one of the first women's national teams to really bring women's beach soccer to the international stage. And as you can see here in the very first women's rankings, Switzerland were ranked #1. So Vanessa and Franziska, maybe you can talk a bit about how the Swiss national women's team were really at the top of the game in 2016, 17.
We will, Franziska will talk a bit in German and I will translate, okay?
Yeah.
Also, ich denke, die Schweiz ist im Frauen-Beachsoccer das Land, welches von Anfang an konstant und immer dabei war. Seit mehr als 10 Jahren. Wir trainieren seit 10 Jahren sehr, sehr regelmäßig, im Sommer und im Winter. So ein bisschen die Unterschiede zu den anderen Ländern. Ich denke, wir haben als kleines Land ein bisschen weniger Potenzial für sehr gute, überragende Spielerinnen. Und ich sehe unseren Vorteil für die Schweiz, dass wir ein kleines Land sind und die Möglichkeit haben, durch das regelmäßig zu trainieren. Wir machen das seit über 10 Jahren wöchentlich. Eine Stärke von uns ist sicher auch die Taktik und das Spielsystem, an dem arbeiten wir sehr viel, und die Erfahrung, die wir doch jetzt seit über 10 Jahren haben, zeichnet uns bestimmt auch aus. Das ist so ein bisschen unsere Stärke und dass wir als ganzes Team sehr stark zusammengewachsen sind. Andere Länder haben unglaubliche Fortschritte gemacht. Es gibt bei allen Nationen unterdessen sehr viele sehr gute, starke Spielerinnen, sehr gute Einzelspielerinnen, die uns physisch überlegen sind. Und ich denke, andere Länder haben unterdessen auch im Spielsystem sehr große Fortschritte gemacht. Das heißt, ja, der Frauenbeachsoccer ist am Wachsen und ist am stark werden.
Okay, I try. Yeah, Switzerland is one of the teams who played since the beginning. It's now over 10 years ago. And I think the positive thing for Switzerland is that we are small. So we had the chance to do trainings in summer and winter. So we did it during the year. So at the beginning, we started as one of the only teams with the system. We tried to build up our games, and since the last years we see that a lot of teams started also to create their own system, and it's really increasing, so it's growing. So we have better teams who we play against and more teams we play against. The thing is, we're small, as we said, so we have not the potential of players that are really, really super good, but we have the potential to have a close team. And we see in other countries that they have really good players. Most of them are physically stronger than we are. That's something that we recognized the last years, that we need to push ourselves more in the physical part. And so it's getting more difficult for us to play against other teams because they know now our system. and they have their own. So, but that's a good thing for the women beach soccer, because it makes it more interesting and more. We have to get stronger, and this is pushing us.
Great, thank you. And I think, as I mentioned before as well, the Swiss women's team in terms of women's beach soccer really were pioneers of the game, and really set the standard for other nations to then try and compete. So after this time, we then had England beach soccer, and as you can see by the rankings, England had quite a good time in the, say, 2017-18 period. And Sarah, you might want to give us some more information about reasons why.
Yeah, so 2017, especially out of those 2 years, was a really dominant year for us. We were really successful in the international tournaments in that period of time. And I think for us, it was a generation of players that came through at that point, like a bit of a golden generation. We built on that for a couple of years. So it was nice to have a squad that was quite settled at that point. And the players we had transferred over from the grass game and were actually talented players. So they were given the time in 2017 to commit more to beach soccer. And I think that's where the difference came, where we had a committed team of talented players. And I think that allowed us to overtake technically other nations at that point.
Okay, yeah, great, thank you. And then to move forward even more, we've obviously now got more rankings and more points available, and Spain now are looking very strong. And Carmen, as you can see, that Spain are currently ranked number 1 in the European rankings, and you can maybe give us some information about how this has happened.
Well, first of all, sorry for my English, but I will try. Yes, I think we are here because of the work of the last years. We have a strong league, the Spanish league, that with many teams and with many players, and I think in Spain beach soccer is growing up, and nowadays is too much player, and Christian have a hard work to choose only 10 players. So I think it's because of that, because of the work, and we have to work hard to stay in the national team.
Okay, great. And you would say that competition for places to be in the Spanish women's team is very strong?
Yes, of course. I think it's nowadays more and more players, and you have to work hard, like I said.
Okay, great. And Ivan and Ilya, it's important to recognize that the Russian national team have got 690 points already, and the team was only established on the European stage in 2018. So are there plans to hopefully overtake the current ranking system, and would it be an aspiration to be in number 1?
Of course, we will try to improve our rating, but there is a very important detail. We played 4 tournaments 4 times, and in 2 tournaments we played with Marina Fedorova, and in 2 tournaments without Marina Fedorova. When Marina Fedorova played for us, we won the tournament. When she don't playing, we had only the 4th place. So I think that the factor of Marina Fedorova is very, very important thing for Russian national team, and I think that Ilya speaks some words about this, maybe in Russian, and I will translate.
Fantastic. Have we got Ilya?
Еще раз. Всем добрый вечер. Sorry. Добрый вечер. Безусловно, у нас не так много было турниров, и, конечно, подтверждение, где играла Марина Федорова, мы оба турнира выиграли. Так что надеемся, что у нас появятся еще более достойные футболистки, но, тем не менее, понимаем, что фактор Марины Федоровой для нас много значит.
Ilya said about the factor of Marina Fedorova, and we believe in our players, we trust for our players, we hope that we will have new Marina Fedorova players such as Marina, but it's a very important factor for us now.
Okay, great. And that's really good insight there from the Russian coaches. And I know maybe Carmen, Sarah, you played against Maria this year. And do you think that there is a big difference? And and we're going to talk more about Maria later, I know, but would you like to add any details?
Yeah, I think from a player's perspective, she's an extremely talented player, and she brings, I think, an exceptional level of technical ability to an already talented international squad. I think, you know, when you're playing against the team with Fedorova in it, there's kind of higher level of challenge. You know you're playing against a good player, and you have to kind of take that into account in your preparation. So it does make a big difference when she is playing, and I think that just shows in her performances.
Great. And Carmen, would you like to?
Yes, of course, Marina is such a good player. All the recent team has good players, but it's true that Fedorova is, when she plays, is another game.
Okay, great, thank you. And as mentioned, we're going to look into more detail around some goals later, and I know Maria Fedorova will feature in these goals. So now we can start to look at the present and some interesting statistics, and we can start to discuss these. And something for me is looking at the difference between 2018 and 2019, and the possible suggestion that the competition has become closer. Teams have become better, and if you can have a look at the difference in the 2 years, obviously in 2019, 5 games were won by only 1 goal, and this is very different to 2018. So maybe Francie and Vanessa, looking at this data and having played and coached in the competition, would you suggest that the competition is now becoming closer?
Yes, we think it's getting closer because things we said before, because the teams, they train more, the countries, they push their teams, they try to find good players. There were more tournaments compared to years before. So I think it's getting closer in Europe. So that's the thing. There more potential in the defense and the offense. So yeah, I think the difference is 1 goal, 2 goals. Yeah, makes sense.
Great. And again, Ivan, looking at these statistics, and Ilya, would you suggest, having coached in the competition in both years, that again that it's becoming more difficult to win a game based on these statistics?
Yeah, of course, it's not simple plan to win, but we will try again and again. But I agree with you. The games, the teams have become stronger, more tactically trained, and I think that it's a new trend for women beach soccer. Not only national teams and clubs, both national teams and clubs. And if you remember the results of World Beach Games, the most important games ended with a difference by one goal.
Fantastic. So there's some good evidence here to suggest that games are going all the way to the final minutes of the last period. And then there's some more data here as well, which shows that there's more goals in the competition than there has been before. And as you can see, different teams are scoring goals. And Sarah, as you can see here, the 2019 had 14 more goals. But the top 3 sides in this bracket, Russia, Spain and Switzerland, their goals didn't change too much. So is there anything here that suggests why there might be more goals?
Yeah, I think we've seen, as mentioned kind of on the previous slide as well, there's been a closing of the gap between what would you consider the more established international sides that have been around for a little bit longer, and the new international sides coming into the game. You look at the Netherlands, 3 times as many goals in the most recent tournament. And I think a large chunk of those were set pieces. So it just goes to show that the technical side of the developing kind of nations that are coming into the sport has massively improved. And I think there is definitely a closing of the gap. We're getting a broader selection of international teams that are of a higher level in the sport.
Fantastic. And I'll come back to you again, Carmen. So I know you've played now against, say, the Netherlands and Czech Republic and England in previous years. And would you say that it's more difficult to stop these teams scoring?
Yes, of course. We played against Switzerland this summer, and the result is 5-4, if I remember well. And it's a very difficult match. So nowadays I think all the teams are increasing, and it's more difficult to score a goal and to win a match.
Yeah, fantastic. And just to highlight again, it's definitely the teams who are maybe finishing 5th and 6th at competitions that they're contributing with more goals. And just one more statistic in terms of teams and how many goals they're scoring and conceding. I found this very interesting as well. So the green lines show the goal difference in 2018, and in most cases they're quite big. But again, in 2019, this difference is much smaller for many teams. I'll come back to you, Carmen, and we look at a goal difference of 10 in one year and 3 in the next year. And any reason why, maybe?
Well, I remember that in 2018, we were able to win the 2 first matches against England and Czech Republic without receiving any goals. And in 2009, we against Switzerland, we won 5-4, and against Czech Republic, I don't remember, I think 5-2. But it's true that beach soccer is increasing. Like I said before, is too difficult to score a goal nowadays and to win a match. So because of that, maybe it's the difference.
Yeah, great, thank you. And Russia, Ivan and Ilya, Russia have remained very consistent. So both times 8 goals. Do you concentrate on both in possession and attacking and out of possession without the ball? And how do you remain so consistent?
We scored fewer goals, but I think that we have one important detail. In 2019, we have a crazy game with the Swiss team. It's a shutout, 8-6. It's a score of this game. So in 2019, we have fewer goals. But the difference was the same. So we think that our strategy on the tournament was correct. So I think that it's a good difference, 8 goals. It's good.
Fantastic. And Francie and Vanessa, we know, having played against Switzerland and watched many Switzerland games, Switzerland score many goals and they also concede many goals. But this is very entertaining. It's a good brand of beach soccer, very similar to the men's team. Is this part of the philosophy in Switzerland to just attack, and try and always score more?
Ja, ich liebe Beachsoccer genau deshalb, weil es wirklich sehr schnell und attraktiv ist, weil es sehr viele Tore, Torszenen und Torabschlüsse gibt. Und genau deshalb fördere ich diese Spielart wirklich auch bewusst.
She loves beach soccer, and especially also because there are many goals happening, and it's a very fast game, so it's attractive to see goals, and that's a reason why she's supporting this kind of game.
Selbstverständlich setze ich auch sehr stark auf die Defensive, was in den letzten 2-3 Jahren einfach wirklich nicht mehr einfach ist, weil die Gegner sehr starke Fortschritte gemacht haben.
That's also a reason why she's putting a lot of focus on the defense, but it's really hard because the other countries made a lot of effort and progress.
Ich denke auch, dass unterdessen die Gegner unsere Taktik, unser Spielsystem durchschaut haben ein bisschen und wir durch das auch ein bisschen verletzbar worden sind.
One of the reasons why we get that many goals is also because the other countries know our system, and as you know, we play a lot with the goalie. We try to create the game from the defense to go slowly forward, and that makes us vulnerable. So I think that's one reason why we score a lot of goals. So we make mistakes, and when they're pushing,
Fantastic. And I'll say again, I do have huge respect and admiration for the Switzerland style of beach soccer. And I think both the men's and the women's, whenever there's an international tournament, there always seems to be high scoring games. And this is good credit and big credit to the Switzerland style of play. So now we'll look more into some of the zones and the different types of goals that each team have scored, and some interesting statistics here as well. And again, each one of the players or coaches from the nations will try and explain some of the rationale and the reasons behind the statistics. So zone 1, just for information, is between 0 to 9 meters. Then zone 2 is between 9 to 18, and then zone 3 from 18 to 27, and then zone 4 is the final zone, which is from 27 to 36. And as you can see from this graph here, different teams looked like they had different strategies, maybe different philosophies, and different ways in which they were going to try and score goals. Most of the goals in the competition were obviously here, as you can see, scored from zone 9 to zone 18, particularly with the Netherlands. And I know we'll talk about the Netherlands in a second, but we've also got some other interesting statistics. So Spain have gone against this trend of this being the main zone, and instead most of their goals have come from zone 0 to 9 meters. So Carmen, it would be really interesting to maybe understand why this is the case.
Well, I think that if we are near from the goal, maybe it will be easier to score a goal. But I think it's because it depends on the pressure of the other team. If they come close to us, maybe the space is in their box, so we have to attack their space. Maybe it's because of that we score a goal in zone 4.
Yeah, and very similar. I know we spoke before about the philosophy in Spain, and is this similar to the men's style of play as well?
Yes, we try to do the same that our men's do, but it's a bit difficult, but we try.
Okay, great. And yeah, like you say, you try and get basically as close to the goal, and I've noticed in the goal observations, obviously you're always looking for that one last pass, which is nice. And Russia, many goals in zone 3, zone 4 as well, but mainly in zone 3. So Ivan, is there any explanation for this?
Yeah, it's our strategy. We scored 6 goals from zone 3, and 4 of them according to our plan. Our strategy, it's the tactics 2-2. So in last tournament, we scored 13 goals, and 7 of them were as we wanted, were as we like. And we have 3 types of goals. The one type, it's a flank goal. It's after the pass from the goalkeeper, or maybe after a cross pass. The second type, it's goalkeeper shoot, or maybe rebound of the attackers. And the third type of the goal, it's a pass into the zone from defender to attacker. So all of these types of goal, we have 4 goals. Type 1 in the flank, 1 goal from goalkeeper, and 2 goals from the forwards in the center. So it's our strategy, it's our philosophy. Yeah.
Okay, great. Sorry if we go back. And Sarah, I know as well, before we watch the video, England have a mix of goals, so in lots of different zones. And is there a reason for this?
Yeah, I think as a nation, we're the variety of goals we create is probably most likely due down to the players we have on the pitch at that time. We've got a really diverse squad, all bringing kind of their own unique qualities to the game. So I think it really is dependable on who's playing, whether we're going to shoot from distance or build up play. I also think that as a squad, we're quite good at during a game trying to establish the weaknesses of the other teams. A bit like what Carmen said, it's all dependable on the space that you create. If you draw a team out, then the space will be in behind and vice versa. So I think we're very reactive to the situations we're presented with, and that allows us to kind of establish our goals for that set kind of team or game we're playing.
Great, thank you. And I know you've suggested before that maybe England doesn't have a brand like maybe Spain or Russia in dominance in possession, and maybe isn't just as fast on the attack as Switzerland, but maybe a blend of both philosophies?
Yeah, I think we're kind of still developing our philosophy as a nation. I know that we've got a very successful side, and a lot of players have played abroad for different in different countries in the leagues, and kind of adopting different styles and trying to combine them. So I think we've got the ability to play the styles, lots of different styles, the styles we think are applicable at that time. And I think we're just still developing kind of that unique brand, a bit like the Swiss have. Having said that, I think it's a bit of an advantage being able to be adaptable. I think it's something that we use really well at times, which allows us to be successful against different opponents.
Okay, great. And I'll go back to Ivan now as well. And Ivan and Ilya, I know we've got a good goal here that we'd like to analyse, which showcases maybe Russia's philosophy, their style of play, and as we mentioned earlier, one of the best players in the world, Maria Fedorova. But yeah, you would like to maybe detail more about this.
Yes, as I said, it's type one of our goals, flank goal, pass from goalkeeper, and the good shoot by Marina. And I think that Ilya will comment this goal.
Ну, безусловно, сейчас, секунду. Безусловно, здесь, конечно, надо отметить, что при такой тактике после паса вратаря мы ждем удар, но еще в этой комбинации надо отметить Полину. Надо посмотреть, что мы просим, да, этот блок, то есть от нее тоже зависит. Она хорошо сделала экран, да, ну, загородила вратарю, так что здесь можно отметить и работу вообще всех остальных футболисток.
Ilya said that it's a very good technical skills by Marina Fedorova, but very important action from our forward. The forward is near the goalkeeper, and when Marina have this shot, forward and goalkeeper and forward, it's a not good vision for goalkeeper. And we ask players to be aggressive in attack, and after the pass from goalkeeper, try to shoot, and if the player have good technical skills as a Marina, we see this goal.
Okay, fantastic. And I know you mentioned before, we've spoken before about the players that you sometimes choose to have at the back and maybe why. Can you maybe explain this as well?
Yes, we have very high expectation from players who play in the defending line. So it's such as Marina, Sheva, and Chernikova. So I think that Netherlands team in this situation play strange for me, because two attackers thinking about goalkeeper shoot maybe, and they forget about Marina. And Marina see this situation. It's a very good player, and momental decision. It's a very good.
Ну, пас хороший. Вика сильно отдала, безусловно, очень хороший пас. То есть мы это требуем, да.
And Ilya said that Victoria Selina had a very good pass to Marina. It's a very high expectation to our goalkeepers to have a good passes for defenders.
Okay, yeah, great, thank you. And also good from Selina to recognise the right moment to play as well, because I remember this goal in the competition, and I think what she did very well was move the ball inside 2 meters to then move the Holland defenders inside in between the posts. So I think she recognised that she could only make this pass if she could move the defenders first, and I think that was very clever and a very good goal. So thank you for breaking down the information.
And we have 2 very good goalkeepers, equal Selina and Akelbayeva. It's very good for us, both of them.
And I can agree to that as well. It's difficult to play against Russia because whichever goalkeeper is in goal, you know that both goalkeepers are very dangerous, and they can hurt you at any time. So yeah, big credit to how Russia play and how they like to try and move forward. So this is another interesting statistic in which 22 goals were scored from set play or restarts, and 43 goals in the competition were scored from open play. And I believe this figure is much bigger than what it has been in previous years. So my question really to the panel, as we go into more detail in the set play goals, is how much do we concentrate on these, and is this something that mainly the players first? Have you seen improvement in how teams take set pieces? So maybe Carla. So can you hear? Sorry, Vanessa, can you hear? I think I lost the sound then. Vanessa?
Yes.
Yeah, so sorry. So can you hear, do you think that teams have improved in set play situations like kickoffs and corners?
Yeah, I think corners is not. Sometimes there are different teams where we saw special kind of corner situation, but it's not something I think is really improved in women's beach soccer. But the free kick, it's what we talked about before. We created a lot of fouls in the zone 3 you showed. And we think we got a lot of goals from there by free kicks against us. So I think the teams are really, really strong, and some players, they're really strong, especially some players of Spain, England, and also Russia. You know, as a player, when you foul them and they get a foul and a free kick, it's really, really, dangerous. So I think this is something which really improved in the last years. Yes.
So much more dangerous now that if free kicks are given away in the competition. Yeah,
yes.
I think I'd agree. And Sarah, would you agree with that and the free kicks as well? And have you seen an improvement in technical ability?
Yeah, I think from the free kick perspective, there's definitely a difference in technical ability to reach target, first of all, and also challenge the goalkeeper. I think, as I mentioned earlier, Holland and the Netherlands, as it shows here, massive improvement on the amount of set pieces they're scoring. And that came a lot from free kicks. It's not. I don't think it's down to detriment to the goalkeepers. I think it is just the standard of the technique is massively improved. I think it's more of an expectancy to score a free kick now. If you're in a goal scoring opportunity in the closer zones, you're expected to score. So I think that has been a massive difference and improvement.
Okay, great, thank you. And looking at some of the other statistics as well, and it's, as I said earlier in the presentation, I think it's really important to understand more detail than just the numbers that you see in front of us. So as you can see here, there were 9 goals in total from either a restart, a corner, or a throw or kick-in situation. I think even more detail in this is that for every one of those 9 goals, there was only 1 pass before. So never 2 passes, never 3 passes. So the combination was always 1 pass, which I think is very interesting. And Carmen, if I come to you, do Spain do anything specifically on their set pieces? And I know we're going to analyze a goal shortly.
Well, of course, I think that set pieces, they are, you have to train a lot, because maybe you can get a goal like Carol do. I think the most important thing is have several options to do. In Carol's goals, for example, Sarah has to look for the space. She looked the space on the side of Carol, and she decides to pass to her. Maybe the pass is too long, but Carol managed to score a great goal. So I think the best option is to look for the spaces like in this goal.
Yeah, fantastic. And sorry, Francie and Vanessa, to keep repeating the goal. But just as Carmen explained perfectly, I think alongside, as Sarah said, about players becoming technically better, this for me is a very special goal, because there is only one option here, not just for Carol to try and shoot, but also for Sarah to play. So she had to shoot in the far corner of the net. And as you'll see on the replay, she didn't have the option to play to anybody else. So I think I agree, players are becoming technically better. players are also becoming tactically better and making the right decisions in set pieces to score fantastic goals like this. And again, just like Maria Fedorova, Carol Gles, a very dangerous player. And when many people would have thought this ball was going out of play, obviously Carol didn't. And it's also important to recognise the ball from Sarah as well. So again, technically fantastic and a great goal.
I think the most important thing is, like you said, that choose the best option, and I think Sarah do perfectly in this goal.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Something else that's very interesting and maybe a big development in the women's game and definitely a development in this tournament is the number of passes before a goal. So as you can see here, the most goals were scored in the competition through 2 passes, which I find very interesting. I think this is very different to tournaments in previous years. And I'm going to ask the panel if they think the same thing. So maybe Sarah first, if you have a look at this data, do you think there has been a change in the way teams keep the ball?
Yeah, I think we're moving towards a slightly more possession-based game. I think teams are still willing to counter-attack. I think as a nation, England, we try to counter-attack where we can, but I think we're recognising that it's not just, you're not able just to throw the ball long and beat players anymore. You have to create space and you have to move teams around. I think Spain, Russia, Switzerland are very good at this, especially in their defensive thirds, moving teams side to side to create space in behind. So I think, yeah, definitely is something that we're developing moving forward, a possession-based game.
Great, thank you. And Francie and Vanessa, I know sometimes Switzerland, they like to keep control of possession. And would you say, again, looking at this statistic, that teams are now better at keeping the ball?
Yeah, they are. That's what we talked before. I think they created their own system. So I think teams start to also play with the keeper and try to build up the game and not just throw the ball and try to score. I think that was the beginning of the women's game, and now it changed a lot. So that's something which is remarkable. But yeah, that's what we. Yeah.
Fantastic. And Carmen, I'll come to you because I think Spain, in my observations, have a different way of keeping the ball and maybe sometimes play 3 players on their own 9-meter line. Why do they do this?
Well, we have different options. Like I said, maybe we start with 3, but if we play with goalkeeper, is 2-2. It depends on the other teams, and we try to move the players and to go down a space. And when we find the space, we try to attack the space, but we try to move and have the possession in order to score a goal.
And having coached against Spain and tried to play against Spain, I think Spain are very good at attracting pressure and making you feel like you can go and win the ball, and then suddenly they go past. And Ivan as well. And again, looking at this data, Russia are a very difficult team to win the ball from. Russia have possession of the ball for very long periods in the game. Maybe you can explain some reasons why.
As I said at the beginning of our talk, I think the new trend for women beach soccer is to increase the number of passes in the goalie combination. So I think we speak about the combination with 7 goals, and it's a very good skills. It's a very good goal, and maybe we see it, and Ilya will comment this goal by Sheva.
Yeah, fantastic. And it really is showing some evidence that teams are now able to keep hold of possession for longer periods in the game. And here's a goal in the final of last year. And sorry, Carmen, we're going to analyze this goal now. But this, yeah, I'll let you analyze.
Что, уже можно мне комментировать?
Да.
Ну да, я повторюсь, наверное, это опять этот гол, скорее всего, исключение из правил, да, он подтверждает, что всего лишь 1 такой гол был забит. Безусловно, здесь мастерство наших футболисток, да, там сыграло решающую роль, и Акылбаева вовремя, да, не взяла в руки, и правда нельзя было. И передачи такие проходили, скажем так, 2-0, третий тайм, третий период, все получается, у девчонок есть уверенность, что здесь опять же психология, и все-таки, да, лидеры на поле, Федорова, Шева, Чернякова, Акылбаева, Зайцева, то есть это сильнейшие футболистки, почувствовали уверенность в своих силах, поэтому гол, ну, как бы очень красивый, да. Повторюсь, я бы очень хотел, если бы так каждая атака наша заканчивалась, но вряд ли, ну, мы так сможем, да, потому что, скорее всего, будут более короткие атаки.
Ilya said that it's an unusual goal for women beach soccer for us now, for us and for women beach soccer in WoW. But we ask players to be aggressive in attack, to target the goal more if they have a good position. So in this situation, we have very good score, 2-0, 2-0. And our players have maybe courage, maybe inspiration, and all of our leaders in the field in this goal. Very high composure of three players of Akılbaeva with the ball, and 2 passes with Akılbaeva and Fedorova pass to the goalkeeper when goalkeeper not to play by the hand. So, and we see very good pass. Very beautiful goal. So I think that in the future, maybe we see the more goals with a big number of passes. But now we think that it's unusual goal.
Yeah, maybe, but unusual, but still a very good goal. And given the situation and that it's 2-0 and it's the European Cup final, and the added here, as you'll see, that the goalkeeper actually didn't have a hands option available again. So I think this is really important to recognise that this is high pressure that Spain are putting onto Russia here, and both players, all 3 players, are willing to use both feet, use the space, attract the pressure, and a very, very good goal, especially given the situation in the game. So big credit to Russia for this goal.
And I think that the Spanish player play well in this situation. It's not bad defending. It's very good movements by the defenders, but our leaders do it very good.
Fantastic. And we have another situation here as well. We'd like to analyze, instead of just analyzing one goal, we're going to analyze the whole game and the situation and what happened here. And I'm going to bring Sarah in for this game to try and explain. And I know other coaches might say some things as well.
So just to kind of give some context to the game, at the start of this game, early on we made the decision to play a non-specialist keeper in goal. So Molly Clark, who's an outfield player, went in goal for us instead of our regular keeper. We only actually took one specialist goalkeeper to the tournament. As the tournament was going, we were underperforming in the tournament, and I think going into the Holland game here, we wanted to try and establish some composure and wanted to try and, against Holland, who are quite a physical side, make the pitch as big as possible, play with possession a bit more, and try and make it difficult for them as a team. Initially, the reward was we went 3-1 up in the game. Molly, who was on great form during the game, was scoring goals from within goal. But as you can see in the last couple of goals, the risk of that was obviously playing a non-specialist in goal. We did concede some goals that Hannah, our regular keeper, would undoubtedly have saved. No detriment to Molly. I mean, she made some fantastic saves as a non-specialist during the game, but that risk of having a non-specialist keeper, especially at set pieces like the piece that's going to be playing now, with Hannah in goal, we might have had a chance of saving. It was a decent free kick regardless. So I think for us, there was definitely a risk and reward in this situation. I think a lot of the other coaches will probably comment on how it might have not been a typical decision to put an outfield player in goal. But I think for us, Molly has such an impact on the game. Technically a fantastic player shooting from distance. She just gave us a different kind of option in this game, allowing us to try something new.
Fantastic.
I think it's important to say that the game, we were 3-1 up in the game, quite in control. Perhaps at that point, maybe our decisions might have been different. I think that's probably what some of the coaches might discuss now. And the game actually got to a 4-4 point and became quite neutral.
So Ivan, I'll come back to you because I know you were in the stadium, and what were your thoughts when you see this?
I didn't quite understand the England coach, you, in this situation. I wondered why Perry had changed the goalkeeper. Why? Molly missed goals that Hannah, for me, have saved in this situation. And I wondered. So I would just trust my players in this situation. I believe in players, and I think that they will be succeed.
Great. And Vanessa and Franziska, I come to you because I know you sometimes had a similar tactic, and Vanessa, I think you've been in goal yourself. So again, how do you sometimes feel about this, and would you still use this tactic?
Yeah, it's a long time ago, but I think what we discussed before is you see how important the keeper is. It shows like you need a keeper who can play with the foot and comes out of the zone to play with the team and create space and also shoot and be one of the players who can score or be dangerous in front of the goal. And on the other side, it's so important that you have someone who is good in as a keeper because all the countries, they can shoot, they have good players, they can shoot from everywhere. We see scores from all around the pitch. And and I think that the keeper is in every situation. So it's really, really important to have a good keeper, and the keeper can play with the team also.
Okay. And I'd like to maybe ask a couple more questions to the coaches on the panel. So Franziska, Ivan and Ilya, how difficult is it sometimes to make decisions on the bench and keep a clear head and a clear understanding? Because so much changes in the game, like you saw in this game. Do you find it difficult to make these decisions?
Yes, it's a high pressure of the result for the coaches. So I think it's maybe unusual situation if your team play not so good for us, because Russian national team and Zvezda in many games play as a tactical plan, according to a tactical plan. But in some situation, maybe some main words from the coach, maybe some unexpected changes that your players see these changes and react to them. I think that all of coaches have some interesting decisions for this situation.
Yeah. Это по поводу, да, там пятого полевого, что он поменял?
Да. Ну, вообще, да, в принципе, сложное решение.
В команде, да, ну, в сборной России не вижу смысла, потому что ногами вратари у нас достаточно хорошо играют, да, и мы не видим смысла выпускать пятого полевого в такой ситуации, наверное.
And Ilya said about situation of Molly as a goalkeeper. In Russia, we have two good goalkeepers who play well by the feet, so we think that it's not needed for us.
Английский вратарь тоже хорошо играет ногами. Ну, то есть мое мнение, что все-таки англичане хорошо играют ногами.
And in Ilya's opinion, Hannah play well by the feet.
Fantastic, thank you. And Franziska as well, how difficult is it sometimes to make decisions like this in close games?
Ich kann mich noch an diese Situation erinnern, als du Molly eingewechselt hast, und ich hätte als Coach genau dieselbe Entscheidung getroffen.
She remembers the game exactly, and she would did the same to change the keeper like you did.
Für mich ist der Torwart sowieso wirklich die wichtigste Person auf dem Feld. Macht das Spiel langsam oder schnell. Wie ihr gesagt habt, es gibt häufig nur ein oder zwei Pässe. Das heißt, der Torhüter löst das ganze Spiel aus. Und in dieser Situation entscheidend wichtig, dass man den Torhüter wechselt, wenn man die Möglichkeit hat.
Like we talked before, it's so important. The keeper is so important. It makes more than 50% of the game, so it can make the game slower or faster. So if you have the chance to change the keeper and put some other inputs into the game and the team, she would do it also.
Thank you. And I think what we can see here now is hopefully what happened and the outcome in this game. So we can see the video. And I think if we come back to you, Sarah, and we can watch what happened.
Yeah, so I think this is, I'll just let it play through so you can see it a couple of times. I think this is the reward of playing Molly in goal. I don't think there's many players, goalkeepers or outfield players who can score a goal of this quality under this much pressure after the opposition have fought back. I think it's really important to kind of take into account that Hannah, our other keeper, we know she can play well with her feet. We know she has that ability. But Molly in this tournament was a form player for us. She was really on form. She finished joint top goal scorer, having played a whole game in goal. I think that just goes to show the technical ability of this player. And I think for us, other teams had maybe sussed out Molly a little bit and how we were trying to play through her in an attacking way. So I think having this opportunity to try her in goal was a kind of a different way for her to showcase she still can score regardless where she is on the pitch. So it did pay off for us. I don't know in the future whether it will be something we use again, because as I said, Hannah's technically a great player and has developed hugely with her feet. So I think she now has, this growing ability to play with her feet, which I think Vanessa and the other coaches have touched on as such an important factor. But yeah, the reward definitely paid off with a great goal from Molly. So
great, thank you. And just to add now and to move on as well. So from this situation, we did say earlier that many games in this competition were only won by one goal. But as I've mentioned earlier as well, it's important to look further into some of the statistics and understand more about the game rather than just numbers. And this is something I found very interesting. So if a team was in a winning position or a drawing position by the end of period 2, they would always go on to win the match. And I found this very, very interesting. Also, there was only 2 occasions where a team had actually come back into a winning position in the match from a losing position. So it was interesting, maybe suggesting that if you are winning at the end of period 2, you will go on to obviously win the match. And if I come to you, Carmen, I know that Spain were in winning positions in the final periods quite often in the group stage. Is there any reason for this, maybe?
Well, I think play the third time is always difficult because you are always tired, and it's difficult to stay right tactically. And because of that, maybe if you are drawing a match, it's difficult to win. I think the most important thing is to be mentally strong, and maybe if you think in positive, you will win. But if you think you can't do it, it's more difficult.
Okay, fantastic. And Ivan, how about yourself? I know Russia are often in winning positions in period 3. So how do you think you keep hold of these winning positions, and how does the game need to develop for women's teams to be able to come back and win in period 3?
I speak about the situation in the world, not only for Russia. I think it's not a trend. Maybe it's a trend of this tournament. But if you remember the World Beach Games, when your team played with Brazil, and it's very difficult game for you, but you return to the game. I think we have not so many international tournaments now. In the future, maybe the situation will be changed. But girls have maybe uncomfortable situation when they are losing before the final part of the game. So I think that it's a typical feature of women's sport. It's a psychology. And when you work with your team for a long time, you have very good examples when your team turns the game around. So I think that the coach of women's team in this situation must be heard by the players as I said, maybe some unexpected changes, maybe some tactical movements. I think that it's not a trend, but for this Euro Cup, it's a trend, yeah, of course. But maybe in the future, this situation will be changed.
Okay, thank you. And Sarah, if I come to you, I know we've spoken before about how the final period in beach soccer, if you're losing, can be very challenging for many reasons. Why might this be, do you think?
I think going into the final period, losing mentally is a challenge always. I think actually as a nation, we're quite good at coming back from positions where we're losing. I think we do have that mental strength. I think often when we don't necessarily get back into a winning position, it's more based on our decision making at that point. I think sometimes in a losing position, we don't necessarily stick to a game plan, or our decision making isn't necessarily what it would be at an earlier stage in the game. And whether that's fatigue or just kind of the pressure of that situation, I think sometimes that's the difficulty, the decision making element. And we've spoken about how that's developed so much in other areas of the game through practice, so the set pieces and possession play from behind. At the 9 metre, I think moving forward, touching on what Ivan said and the other coaches, more tournaments presents more opportunities to perform in pressurised situations, and I think that's something that will become more natural to players. But I also agree in terms of the fact that I think beach soccer as a game is an entertaining game, and it's always going to be a battle. And I think the game does have that natural kind of essence to it, to swing between teams in leading the game in a winning position.
Fantastic. And Vanessa, coming to you, somebody who's played in all 4 of the Women's Euro Cups and been in winning positions and losing positions in the last period. Is it difficult to remain focused on the original game plan in period 3 when you can see the clock is counting down and there's not many minutes left? And do players make different decisions, maybe because of the pressure?
Yes, it is, because I think that's what the other people said before. It's we don't have that many tournaments, so in each tournament we bring new players, we bring young players, and that's important because they need to play, but we don't have that many tournaments. So in kind of in situations like this, it's really, really tough to keep the team focused and mentally strong, because that's something which is so important in the third period, especially to come back or to stay in front. And because I think we start getting creative sometimes and start doing other things because of being nervous at this moment, because we don't know it, how we're not used to it. And so I think one important thing is to have more opportunities to play.
Fantastic. And I think just listening to all those ideas, there's some fantastic insight there into the ways that the different nations all respect maybe the statistic and find it difficult to come back. And yeah, hopefully with experience and with more games, teams will understand how to come back into a winning position. So I found this a very interesting statistic. And now really is just to finish the presentation and really think about the future, where the future of the game might go. I think the nations who have taken part already in beach soccer worldwide have already done some magnificent things in such a short space of time to develop the women's game. And if you can see here, there are now some other nations who are starting to become a real force within the international stage. And maybe Carmen, I know you from the World Beach Games, did you see any other nations that you think might now really start to push the European sides?
Yes, of course. I think in Doha we can show a lot of new for me, for example, new teams and open mind in other teams. And I think that we have to play too much competition in order to continue growing up and continue do better things. So I wish we have more teams and more competitions to be better.
Fantastic. And Ivan as well. Again, I think, like I said just now, there's some fantastic competition now, not just in Europe, but across the world. What do you think the future of the women's game will look like?
We need a Women World Cup, Women Beach Soccer World Cup. I think that we need it. So I can speak about cooperation with big football. I think it's very important for us. Speaking with coaches, try to speak that they include beach soccer to their training programs. In St. Petersburg, we have very good youth tournaments, 100 teams, youth teams, men's teams playing. But I think in the future, maybe women's team will be playing in the youth competition. So we need to increase our family, our beach soccer family, and the players who couldn't get in the football know beach soccer and try to have a good career in beach soccer. So I think that cooperation with football, it's a very big step in the future, and we need for this step.
Okay, great, thank you. And Sarah as well, I know you've played for the national team now for many years. You would have seen, you have been to many competitions and seen many different things. Where do you think the game will be going in the future, and have you seen anything different in recent times?
I think I completely agree with Ivan. I think World Cup is the next target for us all. I think the stage is set now in terms of the teams that were at the World Beach Games. I think the gap between these new teams and the teams that have been here for a long time isn't great. I think it's a small gap. The likes of USA, they have been playing for many years. It's taken a little time to get on the international stage. Same with the Brazilians. So I think the next stage in the future for us is a World Cup. For me, kind of technically and tactically, it's building the possession-based game and showing off kind of the technical prowess of the Brazilian teams. And then kind of probably on a more personal level in England, I think if we do manage to get a World Cup, I think that hopefully will inspire the next generation of younger athletes and give us the opportunity to develop the English league. I know the Spanish league is really well developed, and that's something we aspire to kind of emulate over here in order to, produce a future of players to keep beach soccer women's game sustainable. That's what we want. We want it to keep progressing.
Fantastic. Some really good insight there. And I know you've spoken before about how Brazil have taken a new level of technical detail to the game, and also teams like Paraguay, how strong and physically tough they are. So it'd be great to have more competition there. And if anybody has any questions on Facebook or would like to ask us anything, now would be a very good time to write in the comments box, and we can try and answer the best questions best we can. But also I'll go to Vanessa and Francie, who are two long-established players and coaches within the game, and really set the standard and set the bar from 10 years ago. And where do you think the future is going to go, having now had so much experience?
Ich glaube, wir stehen erst am Anfang des Frauen-Beach-Soccers und ich glaube, er wird sich jetzt sehr schnell weiterentwickeln, dank auch der guten Arbeit von Beach Soccer Worldwide.
She thinks that we're at the beginning of what is going to come, and it's going to grow now faster and faster, also because of the good work of Beach Soccer Worldwide.
Leider ist immer noch sehr wenig Geld da für den Frauen-Beach-Soccer in der Schweiz und auch in anderen Ländern, was die Entwicklung leider ein bisschen bremst.
Unfortunately, there's not much money around, so I think also in Switzerland, but also in other countries, that makes it a bit more difficult to push forward.
Zudem wurden wir ja noch von unserem eigenen Land, vom Verband, von den Olympischen Spielen ausgebremst letztes Jahr, und wir durften nicht an die World Beach Games reisen, was für uns als Schweiz wirklich ein großer Rückschritt war und auch das ganze World Ranking ein bisschen verfälscht.
Yeah, also it was really tough for us that we were not allowed to go to the World Beach Games because Swiss Olympic didn't allow us to go, and this was for us personally and Swiss beach soccer, yeah, not good, a good step forward. Also, it makes a huge difference now on the world ranking, as you see, because we couldn't play there.
Ja, aber wir haben von Anfang an gekämpft, weil wir diesen Sport lieben. Wir werden das weiterhin tun. Ich denke, die Weltmeisterschaft wird weitere Tore öffnen und den Frauen-Beachsoccer noch viel weiterbringen.
And we fighted for it, and we gave everything for it, and we will do it also in future. And we try to push it forward in Switzerland. And the World European Championship will be something really good and big and important for women beach soccer. And I think this will or has to be the next step.
Okay. Fantastic, thank you. And again, what we'll do is we'll conclude the evening here, and hopefully everybody who's managed to listen in this evening from around the world, I've realised how fortunate we are to hear of the opinions of some very experienced players and coaches from across Europe who, between everybody in this panel, as I say, have been to many European finals and world finals, and it's been fascinating to hear the insight from all of the nations, and I'm really grateful that our friends from England and Switzerland and Spain and Russia have all been willing to share some of their philosophies, share some of their styles of play and their strategies, and hopefully this will benefit beach soccer and further develop the game. So I'd just like to finish there and just say thank you to everybody who tuned in. We hope you've got a bigger insight into the women's game and an understanding of the developments and also of the competition in the Women's Euro Cup itself. And it's just finally for me to say, I hope everybody's staying safe. I hope everybody is staying well at this difficult time for everybody. And I, as much as anybody else, hopes that I'll see you back on the sand very soon. And I just want to say thank you. And if the panel would like to say thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you
guys.
to everyone. Bye.
Bye.